And Councilor Sheffield. Perfect. We have everybody that we need. Okay. Clerk Peters, are you ready? Okay, thank you. Welcome to the City of Groton Committee of the Whole for Monday, July 26, 2021. Clerk Peters, please call the roll.
Present, we have Mayor Keith Hedrick, Deputy Mayor Guinevere Depot, Councilor Lisa McCabe, Councilor Paul Norris, Councilor Christine Piazza, and Councilor Stephen Sheffield, and Clerk Megan Peters.
Okay. All right, we're going to start with 792, which is Sister Cities. And with that, I'm going to bring George Mathenall up. George, if you can come up, and all you have to do is press the mic and it should go from red to green. So let me get to 792. Okay, so what you have before you is basically, it's a MOU, a shortened version of an MOU. It's a one-page, but to establish the sister city relationship between Town of Groton, City of Groton, and City of New London with the City of Kingston, Jamaica. Now, for those of you that have been on the council for a while, you'll notice that back in 2019, we approved the letter of invitation to the sister city for Haifa, Israel, and also for Kingston, Jamaica. And they came here and visited and those kinds of things. So this is a continuation of that. And George, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. So due to COVID, we took a pause of advancing the whole agreement, the MOU, and really going through the finite details of this partnership or relationship. And now, since COVID is somewhat, at least until 2 weeks ago, was regressing, the Jamaicans came back and said, can we resume our conversation where we want to formalize the sister city partnership? And so I raised the query back to the mayors of all the town and the city and New London as well to start some kind of a process to advance it. The Jamaican delegations are coming down to New York on the first week of August. It's their 59th anniversary on that week, so it's a big celebration. So it's the first time any cabinet level minister is leaving the country, and he's coming to New York, which has a very large diaspora of Jamaicans. The second largest diaspora is in Connecticut, coincidentally. So they would like to visit Groton, New London, and exchange friendship, courtship, and just to say hi again and let's start this conversation. So basically that's what we are trying to do. We are not looking to go into the nitty-gritty. This is just a courtesy visit.
And this is what the MOU says. It's a high-level MOU. It doesn't get into any, there are no specific deliverables on either side with the MOU. It's just commemorating the act of becoming sister cities is what the MOU is intended to do.
Yep.
Right? Any questions? Councilor Sheffield?
Oh, okay. Now, when would you, like I said, you want to begin soon with this partnership, agreement and?
So what I advised them to the Consul General, who was reaching out to me in dialogue, actually, she was trying to reach me a little while ago as well. What they're doing at this juncture is they want to just come down and shake hands. Just have a warm hands to hold. because it's been a year of being away, and they had a wonderful time visiting us, especially Mayor Keith gave them a phenomenal tour of the place, and they were extraordinarily touched. They feel far more comfortable coming to southeastern Connecticut than even visiting Hartford. So they want to just reciprocate that initial visit and come by again. And also in this particular instance, the mayor of Kingston is also coming. So the mayor of Kingston is almost like the mayor of New York City. It's of
Right.
that kind of
His worship, Delroy Williams.
yes. So it's of a more governing role, and of course the cabinet minister for state, trade, foreign affairs, and Jamaican diaspora, Minister Campbell, as well, and the consul general as well, and I assume several other delegates from the embassy and the consulate will be coming. So they're coming here for a couple of hours, and I assume they just want to meet and greet with all of you, and likewise with the town of Groton and the city of New London. But the long-term goal that what we are looking to establish would be a sort of a formalized agreement for culture, education, exchanges, and all those kind of things, which would be tackled one at a time, seeing where the value proposition is in terms of cultural exchange or food exchange or educational exchange or technology exchange, or each of it would be tackled independently. For those who weren't here at the earlier, back in 2019, our earlier objective was to create southeastern Connecticut as the node for Jamaica. Jamaica has grown now to be the fourth largest entree or shipping hub in the world. It is the largest in the Western Hemisphere. And with that, they are looking for landing pads for all the shipments that are coming from Asia. So Florida would be the natural choice. The other option would be to find some level of drop shipping in eastern Connecticut, and if possible, to drop further up in New York. But the problem with New York and Port of New York and New Jersey, it's really busting at the seams. So they're looking to establish this. So the value proposition for Connecticut, we are in certain ways and shape in the last 4 years becoming a logistics hub for Walmart, for Amazon, of course, and primarily a lot of the goods that are going to be shipped through the Jamaican logistics hub would be for those entities, which will then make Connecticut even more of a transportation and shipping hub, if you will.
And they're gonna be here August 3rd.
Yeah,
Tentatively.
pending your good officer's coordination with the other town
Yeah.
and city.
Now, are we primary looking at mostly exports? Are we going to be a primary exporter towards Jamaica, or there'll be sort of an equal exchange of import-export?
We are importing.
Yeah,
A
okay,
lot of things are just coming here now.
Okay,
So,
not the other way around, okay.
I mean, we go down to, if we go down to Amazon or go down to Walmart, everything comes from everywhere else.
Okay.
So that's where, so the idea would be, if they can see, and also, as you probably know, Mayor Passero is of City of New London is also exploring the value proposition of creating a New London tax-free zone, which extends to the entire Thames River, to encapsulate all of that as a tax-free haven. In that way, Amazon, Walmart, Target, all these major distribution hubs will find Connecticut as an easier point-to-door facility for them.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Depot, you had a question.
I mean, I think my question is probably premature. I was just thinking with, I feel like recently, there's been a lot of residents who've wanted to get more involved in what we're doing in the city. So I was thinking, are we going to maybe sometime in the future coordinate some kind of event? Especially because I personally know a few people who are of Jamaican heritage who would be interested in this idea and maybe interacting. Is that maybe down the road in the works to do some kind of event?
We haven't started the planning on that, but
Right.
this came up fairly quickly, and it's gonna be a short event, but I'm sure, once we sign the MOU, that we can establish something and set up a day or set up a celebration, maybe with, food and music and those kind of things. And
Absolutely.
celebrate the culture.
Can do an annual
Sure.
affair.
Absolutely, we could do that. I mean, for example, on the 29th of this week, we're gonna be hoisting the Peruvian flag.
Oh,
So, you know, we are reaching out to the different cultures that are out there and embracing them here in the city. So this is just another one. Did you, Councilor Piazza, and then I'll go to Councilor Norris.
I just want to reflect off of Deputy Mayor Depot, that when you were talking about a festival, so we did a ministry in Cabo Verde in 2019, and prior to that, there was a large festival we had in Norwich, because there's a lot of Cape Verdeans there within Massachusetts, and they all came down. It was a wonderful, wonderful event, so it's a great idea, great way to bring culture together, other people, so I would really be interested in doing that.
I think the Jamaicans are looking to export Bob Marley here a little bit more.
Okay? Councilor Norris.
I am not familiar with sister cities whatsoever. So, are there other communities in Connecticut that are sister cities with Jamaica?
No,
Okay. Anywhere on the East Coast?
probably.
I guess what I'm trying to say, trying to get at is, what does it mean to be a sister city? Because a lot of what we're talking about, you don't need to be a sister city. You just need to be people that really care about each other. And you want to share a cultural belief and an experience. So I'm trying to, like, what is the sister city thing? And then the other part to that is, a lot of what's in this MOU here, I don't know, besides culture, exchanging cultural ideas and events, a lot of it is on the state to approve.
No,
Well, trade and commerce. No?
no.
Okay. So I guess I'm just looking for clarification on what
Okay.
this is.
So, sister city is a term that, which is a simpler permutation. The proper term that's used internationally is called twinning, depending how you want to pronounce it. So basically, it creates a focused relationship. Unlike a generic, whoever comes and knock on the door, we'll deal with you, and vice versa kind of thing. This is a more focused, attentive idea on what we could do together as a partner, as an equal collaborator, may it be for education, may it be we have a diaspora of people from West Indies that would be looking for cultural exchange from their homeland, the home state, or they are looking for food and events that they could celebrate over here. It could be the idea of our companies in Groton, New London, or Greater New London County are looking for export market or trading partnership or investment opportunities in Jamaica. So it is reciprocal in a targeted way between a particular region and a particular city or a state of another country. So this, I mean, you could easily Google it, and there are more broader definition that would give you more clarity to it. But basically, it all runs on the fact of creating a mutual shared vision of helping each other.
It's kind of like when you come out and say we're besties. You know what I mean? I mean, that's a low level, but, so this gets started, anything that where specifics, like for example, if we were going to do something specific with Kingston, or Kingston was gonna do something specific with us, then it would be a laid-out contract and those kind of things. I mean, this is I'm not even sure this would even be required. It's more ceremonial, really, than anything else. And that's why I said up front, there's nothing that obligates us. That's one of the concerns that I had up front, is that although in the future, looking at educational and possible trade and other things in this region, because we have industry here, we have technical information we can share back and forth, but we have to be careful when you start talking about sharing technical information back and forth and the State Department gets involved and it can get complicated. But that's further down the road. So,
It's also tourism.
and tourism. Tourism, absolutely. Any other questions or comments? Okay, then I'll take a motion to move this to the mayor and council meeting of August 2nd, 21.
I'd like to make that motion, Mayor.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Okay, 3. All right, department presentations.
I guess I'm dismissed.
Okay,
Thank you.
George.
Thank you. Have a good week.
Okay, department presentations, we're gonna start with, building and zoning, so, Joe? I think everybody knows Joe Summers, I think he's been here. One of the things that I'm trying to do at the Committee of the Holes is to, bring department heads, rotate the department heads through so that you see them more often than just, during the budget season, or if they're coming to ask for something. So this way, they can tell you about the projects they're working on and what they're doing, what they've done, and those kind of things. And today's, the first one for today is building and zoning with Joe. So that's under 655. So Joe, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, the mayor talked about this and trying to think of what to present and everything, so I decided to present the annual report for the fiscal year ending June 30th of 2021. Because that's one of the charges the mayor had with my employment when I started in December was, could I do an annual report and all that? And I rely on annual reports to determine the activities within the department and future trends. So with that, so I'll go through my annual report. If you have any questions, please ask them, and I'll try to answer them. But as I mentioned, I started working for the city in the early part of December upon the retirement of Carlton Smith, who's been here for quite a number of years prior to that. With last year, everybody knows about COVID, and there was a reorganization within the city of Groton here, and the building department and zoning moved to the former credit union space downstairs. So it consolidated some of the staffing because staff was located in various parts of this building. So everybody's together now. So with that, since I started in December, some of the things that we've accomplished is worked with IT. We've updated the webpage with more current information, revised many of the application forms and information online, and a lot of those forms are screen fillable, so it's easier to fill it out and also easier for staff to read applications that come in, complaints and things like that, so it's easier to read. We've been reorganizing the processing and tracking of applications and permits. One of the first things I did is I came to the council to get approval to enter into agreement for a permitting software. I think that was in January or February. A week and a half ago, we started implementing that. Right now, it's just within our department, so we can work out the bugs and learn the system before we go out public with that information. So we've been backtracking, entering in all permits and applications from July 1st. That way, I have an accurate record from July 1st for this fiscal year. So, and this week, we're gonna be rolling out another module to other departments, because that'll allow us to automatically check for any delinquent taxes and notify other departments automatically as applications come in for reviews and approvals, such as Groton Utilities, Public Works, the tax collector in the town side, and any other departments that may be applicable, such as planning and zoning, and sometimes the police and the fire marshal, so it'll be an automatic notification. So it'll be more streamlined and hopefully a more accurate tracking system. And recently, another thing that we've done is we obtained approval from the state to review and dispose of certain municipal records that we had that we could dispose of. So the state librarian gave us approval for that, and we have been, it's a long, tedious process, because we have records in 4 locations within this facility. So it's going through each of those locations and determining what can we dispose of. Because with the state librarian, certain records we have to keep for the life of the structure. Some of the records we can dispose of after a certain amount of time, but we have to obtain approval for that. So we've been working on that, and that's always going to be a continuing process. And another accomplishment is we started the process of scanning our large format documents that are in the various vaults that we have. That will allow us to retain a more permanent record, because some of these documents are old and are starting to fade, and so it's tough to read some of them. Plus, it'll be easier to retrieve those documents for any other projects or any other clients that come in that may want to see records of their structure or plan on any future renovations or additions. So then we can give them an electronic copy for their use.
One of the things that we're continuing from when I first got here is we had a company that was scanning documents, and they come to find out they really weren't scanning the documents. So we went and we toured a place called Scan Optics, and that's where we're doing our document management now. So I've asked each of the departments to set aside a certain amount of money every year so that we can identify the documents that we're required to keep. So the first thing we got to do is municipalities we keep everything, because we don't want to throw away anything, even though there are state requirements says what you have to keep and how long you have to keep them for. So my thing is, if you don't need it, it's not required to get rid of it. If it is required, let's scan it, let's get it into the cloud, because it keeps it and it saves space. And so that's one of the things that we're doing. And we went to the state librarian and asked for permission, because some of their documents have to be either on microfiche or on hard copies or things like that. And I've asked to get that relief lifted, because I know, or ask for relief on that rather, because I know the state is doing that. So we sent that out. First time they said no, we kind of like it the way it is. We kept going, and so we sent another letter out, and we're waiting on that response.
And, as far as that, our last fiscal year, we were approved to start this process. We didn't expend all that money, and I'll be coming back probably another month or two to request additional funds from our budget to continue on with the scanning once we get through some of the archive records in the vault, so we can allocate. We want to scan this section.
Right.
It's just a lengthy process.
All right, so where are we going?
Yep. Some of the future goals I'd like to do, continue with the scanning. One of my goals is to hopefully be fully electronic by July of 2022. It's a very aggressive schedule, but I think our department can do that, and it's going to be an educational process for the public too, because we're going to have to get a lot of information out there as to how the process is going to work and all that. So, but that's my goal. And one of the other things gonna be, goals for this fiscal year is to update the various regulations and, that I'm in charge with the inland wetlands, the harbor management, and the Eastern Point Historic District regulations. Next month, the historic district regulations are on the agenda to start discussion on that, because those have not been updated since 1994. And then we're gonna get into the harbor management and then the inland wetlands following that. So all that is happening, plan on happening this year. Next one would be the updating of the rental housing ordinance, because that is based on a, I don't remember the exact date, I think 1996 property maintenance code. So there's been a lot of changes to that document and everything, so want to review that and recommend some updates and corrections on that. So with that said, part of the annual report, as I mentioned, I rely on annual reports to kind of give an indicator of the trends of things and the expectancy of staffing and budgeting. And the construction values and the permit fees within this annual report are based on permits issued. So it's not gonna reflect exactly of what is recorded with the finance director, because that's monies that we receive. Sometimes we can issue a permit within a day or two after receiving an application. Other times it may take 2, 3, 4 months, depending on what information is required and the review process. So if you just keep that in mind, that'll help make this more understandable. So as you can see, the past 2 fiscal years, we've had a tremendous amount of construction activity. Most of that is attributed to the Electric Boat South Yard Assembly Project, which is attributing to over $500 million worth of construction going on, which would be wrapping up in the spring of 2023. We do have a couple other projects coming in that are related to the South Yard Assembly Building coming in this fiscal year. One of them is it's called the EB 605, the Coates Building. That's supposed to be coming in this Friday for application. And that should be the last major component of the South Yard Assembly project. And that is due to be completed at the same time as the Assembly Building in the spring of 2023. So they do have some very aggressive construction schedules going on. So with that, of course, our permit fees have raised considerably. For this fiscal year, I did budget that the permit fees would be about $1 million based on, I knew this EB 605 building would be coming in this fiscal year, and Pfizer's is planning on some other renovation lab work this year, so I did take some of that into account, and some of the other smaller projects we got going on. And that's why I said, something like this helps me guide in that, of how things are going. So after fiscal year 2023, the construction values and the permit fees should decline, and that's because of the South Yard Assembly Building. And the mayor and I have been in discussions on that on a regular basis as to how that impacts the tax base.
So let me break in real quick and try to tell you why I wanted him to go into this part of it. So if you look at the lines, you can see that 2019 all the way back, we're $500,000 or less in permit fees. So that's what we're probably gonna go to in the future, right? So we've had a couple good years. This next year is probably gonna be about $1.1 million. But the permit fees are gonna start going down. So if the permit fees start going down, what is the potential impact on the tax base? And one of the things that we've looked at is, so you have the fees going down here, but at the same time, you're gonna get some COs in 22 and 23. And we're gonna see, when's the CO for 600?
600 is planned for February of 2023.
So February 2023. So that won't be on the grant list until October of 2023, which will be for the 24 budget. And because it's in the enterprise zone, it's not 100%, it's 20% for 5 years. So what we're looking at is you're looking at a revenue drop, and then you're having an increase in revenue from the COs, from the buildings, 600, 605, 604, and all the other support buildings. But they're gonna start coming up, and then, but you got that drop off. So one of the things that we've done is our lenders want us to be between 20 and 25% on the general fund. So we're at 24.1%, so we're at the high end. The other thing we've done is we've kept taxes level instead of dropping them every chance we get, because that's not sustainable. So what we did the first 3 years, we dropped them, kept it level for this year. We're at 24.1% in the general fund, and we have, make sure I get the right fund. We have about $1.1 million in unassigned capital, which we'll talk about that a little bit later tonight. And what we have with that is so that when it starts to come and our revenues start to come off, then we will have money to pull from to help fill that gap. The other thing that we've done is when we've spent in the last couple of years, we spent on projects. So what you do is you stop doing projects, right? So when you stop doing your projects, then that's an immediate halt to that. That's why we're getting the projects done while we can. And then that money that was being spent is not gonna be spent anymore, so that will reduce your expenses, and then wait on the revenues to come up and catch up so that you can continue to spend down the road as you get this. Now, we're also gonna be forecasting revenues for Pfizer and revenues for residential. So that, it's a little complicated, there's a lot of different factors, and they're moving, but these are the kind of things that we're looking at 2 and 3 and 4 years down the road, and we're making decisions now, or I am, and bringing them to you, that we're making decisions now so that we don't get in that deep V and then have to raise taxes by a lot, and then people say, why do you have to do that? Right? So that's how I and finance are using this information for revenues, for projected revenue projections. So Joe, please continue.
Yep, sure. So the next page is the permits issued, and the number of permits issued for the past 10 years is really consistent, especially with the ongoing market, 600 to 700 permits a year. And that ranges anywhere from commercial, industrial, residential construction. The chart below that just shows a breakdown of the number of permits that we have issued for the last fiscal year from month to month. From my experience, usually from November through February is the lowest months because of the holidays and the winter months. But as you can see here, the city has been fairly consistent across the board each month. I can tell you just for July right now, we have issued over 70 permits. We have over 40 in review, and we've collected over $60,000 in permit fees just for this month so far. So it's a very active market going on. On the next page is just a further breakdown of the permits issued by the various trades, whether it's a building permit, electrical permit, plumbing, mechanical. Fire protection would be, I started tracking fire protection, which would be sprinkler systems within structures, which is mainly Electric Boat and Pfizer's and some other facilities, because those are highly specialized, so I started tracking those. Next page is for the residential construction. For fiscal year 2021, we've issued 6 new single-family permits. The year before that, there were 7 permits issued, so there's quite a few new house construction permits issued, and as of today, we have 6 or 7 houses that are under construction. And we are anticipating the Park Place townhouse project, which is 17 units, to be coming in been in discussions with the developer over the past week or two on the permitting process and what's gonna be required for submission, so that seems to be a very viable project in the very near future.
And that's another good sign. I know that we tend to focus a lot on the negative aspects of COVID and what it's done for us, but the fact that we're getting new residential, we're having new construction residents in the city of Groton, along with the commercial and the industrial building that we're doing, that's a good sign for us.
Yep.
So I just want to make sure you guys
Yep.
know that.
You know, we also have a lot of inquiries about people wanting to add on or convert space within their house for more livable, usable space. So people are spending money on their dwellings. The next page is another breakdown based on the commercial construction. Again, breaking it down by building, electrical, plumbing, mechanical, fire protection, and then temporary permits. Most of the temporary permits are attributed to Electric Boat with activities they have going on, such as some food drives and their turkey giveaway for their employees and the christening of any subs that are coming up, which we
COVID
do have
tents and
one.
things like that.
Yep, yep. And the last page is the inspections. From our calculations for last fiscal year, we did over 1,000 inspections. Over 300 of those are attributed to the South Yard Assembly Building, which we do have an inspector assigned down there for full-time. So he's doing the South Yard Assembly Building, and he's gonna be doing the majority of the work for the 605 building, since it's located right there. But myself and Walt, my assistant's gonna be assisting him with some of those inspections, because it is gonna get very busy for him down there. So as I said, you know, something like this I use as a guide for future budget processing and projections for the, you know, within the department for staffing, or what can we do or what we can't do. And again, with meeting with the mayor and Ron Uhas, the finance director, a guide of how this impacts the tax base. So if you have any questions.
So any questions for Joe? Deputy Mayor Depot?
Well, first I want to say thank you. I really like all the charts in here.
It makes it easy.
It makes it easy to, if you're a person who likes to read, you know, paragraphs, there's
Yeah.
the writing in there, but if you're a visual person, it's much easier to understand. Is this something that's available to residents or taxpayers on our website to see?
I
like-
am going to be putting it online. I wanted to
Okay.
present it here before I put it out to the public. That way, so if there's any questions, concerns, or corrections, I can get those done before posting it on the website.
I really like the successes and accomplishments and future goals and initiatives, and I know, you know, when we have budget season, there's like a cover page. I think that would be kind of cool to put on in the budget book. So when we're going through the budget, we can see this information too for next year. I think that would be kind of neat. It's nice when we're going through the budgets to see what that money actually is doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Norris?
Thank you. This was good. It was on my level. Answered all my questions, easy to understand. Yes,
Trying to
the
make it that way.
trust. It was very good. I appreciate it. First, let me thank you and the rest of your staff, because you didn't miss a beat during COVID. It's pretty remarkable how much work they got done during that time. When we look at comparisons, though, I noticed that you don't have one for fiscal year '22.
Right.
Even though you say that some of the permit and inspections may start to slide off because of what's going on
Yep.
with EB, but would it be fair enough to say that if you took an average of, let's say, going back to fiscal year 14 through fiscal year 17 for residential, that may be somewhat similar to what may happen to us in 22, 23? Because EB's gone.
It's quite possible. That's something that, you know, I would have to gauge as time goes on.
Yeah.
You know, because if this trend of people wanting to add on and doing extensive renovations on their homes, you know, it could be a very good indicator. But it's one of those things it could change on a month-to-month basis, depending
Right.
on.
Because I was actually gonna go the other way, that between now and next May,
Right.
your numbers may possibly be pretty darn high with residential.
Right, right, and that's, and some numbers I don't take into account because I'm not confident that
Right.
they would happen in this fiscal year or any certain fiscal year, where some projects I am, like EB and some of the work that's coming up on Pfizer's. You know, have a pretty good idea that they are coming up, because we do have monthly meetings with Electric Boat and Pfizer's on projects they have
Yeah.
ongoing and ones that are coming up. And they're always bringing up projects that aren't even on the list.
Good.
So it's,
So I'm just gonna end with, thank you very much,
Yep.
because I love five-year forecast. I love the way the mayor is roped permitting and the revenues that come from this in with finance and looking forward to the next couple of years and what that actually means to the
Yep.
residents. So thank you all.
okay, thank you.
Any other counselors? Okay, thank you, Joe, I
Thank you.
appreciate it. So just taking a step back real quick. Oh, come on. Miami-Dade County and Kalamazoo, Michigan are also Kingston sister cities. So you had asked that, you had asked it in the context of Connecticut, but in a broader context, there are others, so I wanted to let you know that. Okay, so the next, we'll continue on 6:55 department presentations. The Police Department, Chief Jenkins. So we'll get Chief come up and talk about the police department in general, and then after that, we'll go into 7:58, which is the locker rooms, and then I have something else I want to add on.
Apologize, I don't have graphs or handouts or anything. I'm sorry. Okay. Well, the City of Groton Police Department, as we all know, is a 29-man department. We have 9 civilians. At this point, we are down 2 officers. We're in the process right now of hiring 2 more. We're looking to hire a 3rd shortly. And we have dispatching going on. We have hiring for that as well, because we're losing one of our dispatchers in retirement. Mr. Rondo is happily retiring after several years. Some of the things that we've been ongoing with is training. Constantly updating our training, especially with the new rules that are coming out of the House Bill 6004. We're looking at updating all our policies as well. We have to go through all our policies, as the mayor says earlier. We have to go through them, and not only do we have to update them due to policy changes, but the times are changing and the environment's changing. So we got to make sure everything is up and running. Let's see, blight is a major concern in the city right now. We've been fighting blight for several years. Just a comparison, for the last 2 months, our blight officer has gone on 20 blight cases in the last 2 months since June 1st. So he's actively searching on that and try to settle that. Were you saying something, Mayor?
Well, I was gonna say, so for the blight cases, there are, sometimes people reach out to you, sometimes people reach out to us, to the mayor's office, sometimes they reach out to the police or to Glenn directly. But we have a lot of blight things that are going on all the time, so we're always on it. Now, one of the things that we don't do, and I don't think I'm gonna do, is if we have a blight case, I'm not gonna bring it to you and say, okay, at 24 so-and-so Avenue, we're going after that blight, because I am not going to shame people or embarrass people about doing that. What we're gonna do is we're gonna follow our blight ordinance. We're going to work with the residents to address the blight, and then we're gonna correct the blight issues, and then we're gonna move forward. So unless there's something that is extremely bad, then we'll let you know. And the other thing that we're not gonna do is when there are people that sometimes get on Facebook and wanna bring up stuff and want to address these issues on Facebook, I am not going to get into a dialogue about what the city is doing on blight issues or on a particular property on Facebook. It's just not gonna happen. It's not where it belongs. It belongs here, and then it belongs with the blight officer. So there's several things. Joe?
Let me apologize for that. Let me,
Hold on. Sorry, chief.
Okay, can I add something to that?
Yeah.
I just want to bring up, since
Joe, come on up so we can get you on the mic.
since we're talking about blight, Walter, my assistant building official, works very closely with Glenn. So they collaborate 2 or 3 times a week usually about potential issues and all that, and they work out as to who's gonna take the lead on some of these issues, so. It's a hand-in-hand, working relationship that we have, so.
and I'll clarify the blight, the 20 blight issues. It's anything from grass, minor stuff, like the mayor says. It's minor things that he has gone out and trying to keep the city beautiful, nice, respectable.
Well,
So they're not all major issues.
Right. Well, there was a blight issue that was brought to the council in the last couple of weeks. We've sent out a couple letters. We have not received action. So we're gonna take the next step. We're determining what that next step is, but it's gonna be, more forceful. And so in the next couple of weeks, you should see a change down on Thames Street on what's going on. Councilor McCabe?
Do we not have a series of steps, a procedure that we follow, so we do
Yes.
know what the
We do.
next step is?
Yes.
And there's a lot of statutory processes that we have to follow too, so.
Okay,
Well, absolutely. It's not willy-nilly, and it's not up to me.
right.
But our philosophy in general, we're talking about policing, is to try to get voluntary compliance. We do not like to have to go in and use hard steps in enforcement, meaning fines or do a lean and clean, but I am not above that. And so, that is probably something we're gonna see in the near future.
Do we also have a process in place in case it is a case of someone that actually cannot physically manage something due to maybe an accident or just being elderly? Do we have processes in place to get them the support
Yes.
that they need?
Yes, ma'am. We have a couple of those that we've dealt with already, and we go to regional organizations such as Groton Human Services. We've reached out to the Naval Sub Base and the veterans units that they have to help people that are either veterans that are disabled or individuals that cannot financially gain access to a dumpster or repairmen that will help repair the items for free.
Do you
or
ever
for-
reach out to like United Way? I know that they're very active in the community as well. That might be another option. I know they.
We'll explore every option.
And if you look in the ordinance, there's some things that are outside of our jurisdiction. For example, when you get into rats and mosquitoes and those kinds of things, then we have to reach out to Legislative Health District, and now it becomes a health district issue, and they are working with us, or we are working with them in partnership. In addition to that, we have a case now where we're working very closely with social services because there's some other issues associated with it. Some of it may be counseling, some of it may be financial counseling. I mean, we're just not, it's not just a punitive
Right.
harm. We are trying to work with people to help them, and you're right, we've had some cases where we've had people on fixed income where we've had to get volunteers to, with their permission, to come in and either clean up or to mow the lawn and those kind of things, and we do work to do that when we can.
Good.
We do try to go for positive outcomes.
That's where we go first. First, we just go out, reach out to them, talk to them, see what's going on, how we can help, what we need to do to help them get into compliance. And any means that we can provide, we provide.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, please continue. I'm sorry, Chief.
Thank you. Another issue we're
Thank you.
looking at is speeding in the city of Groton. There's speeding complaints throughout the city. Now, there's different avenues that we can go to try and combat this. It could be from road constriction design, road designs itself, to, we have a radar trailer that we set out, that we put on 3 different street so far. We got 3 more to put it on. The process for that is usually you put the radar trailer out for about a week on the street so everybody knows what their speed is and attempt to slow them down. Then we take the radar trailer away and we place an officer down there. And then we stop the vehicles for about a week and we give them verbal warnings. Hey, you know, you had the radar trailer out here, now I'm out here for a week. A week after that, the 3rd week, we give out tickets. So there's 2 weeks of warning before we actually take some kind of, usually, before we take some kind of financial, you know, infraction, so to say. So that's an effort that we're gonna continue to combat, and any and all citizens that wish to advise us of issues that they have, be it stop signs or seat belts or cell phones or speeding, you can feel free to email me on the city website, and we'll address them as they come in.
So we are, just for everybody listening out there, we are going to take a crackdown on speeding. And I know there are complaints that people are saying, oh, these guys or those guys or whatever are speeding through my neighborhood. Some of the people that are speeding through your neighborhood are your neighbors. And it might even be you. So if you get a ticket, you've been warned. Because we are going to slow down the speed in the city of Groton. And then in the future, not right now, but in the future, we're also going to be evaluating and addressing illegal parking. So, Chief, I'm sorry, please.
No, that's all right. Another thing that we're working on right now presently is our radio system. We are now, as we all know, up on the state radio system, which helps interoperability between local police departments that are on the state system, so we can talk to Groton Town, Stonington, Norwich, Ledyard. There are a few bugs that we're working out. If you take a walk around the inside of the municipal building, you'll see a very long black cable going through the hallways. That is an antenna. So our radio systems will work inside, down into building and zoning, down in the basement. So they will work anywhere and everywhere if something happens internally in the building. That's an upgrade that we're doing right now. Another upgrade that we're looking to do is cameras, street cameras on intersections, out on CBS, out on Bridge Street. Any major intersection, we're looking at putting cameras up that will be monitored by our dispatch center. So if we have an issue, say at the south end of the city, and we're looking for a certain car, their dispatchers can watch the cameras. So that's something we're looking to implement in the future. Another thing to combat, actually, the speeders is radar trailers or radar cameras. I'm looking into those, so you can put them in positions just like the regular monitoring cameras that will monitor the speeds of the vehicles and take pictures of the vehicles and take pictures of the license plates. There's 2 ways around that, and that would be one that would store all the data in the cloud, and we can go and we can track them down and give them verbal warnings or written warnings. And then again, the second time you get a ticket. Or you can do the cameras that are in the major cities where actually take pictures and then issue the tickets themselves. I don't think we're gonna go that way. I think it's more cost-effective and more neighborhoodly friendly, or in a friendlier town, that we take the pictures, we issue the warnings before we go give them tickets. To let them learn and see what's going on. Coming in the next month or 2 months, we're gonna have an FBI audit come in to the city. We have to have all our computers, as far as running records checks and licenses checks and information on wanted persons. We have to do it a certain way. We have to keep certain records. We have to maintain that only individuals that are able to see that information sees it. So the FBI comes in and audits us to make sure we're in compliance. So that's coming up. Captain Leto is working on that, along with Sue Blanchette from IT. So we're all in compliance there. Some of the things we didn't get to do last year due to COVID was all the public events that we used to have. We used to have obviously the fireworks haven't been happening. We haven't been able to do any picnics down at Branford Manor to outreach people and kids. So I want to do that in the future now that COVID is hopefully winding down or people are getting vaccinated, we can get out there and do the events. City Day is going to be a great event because it's going to be one of the major ones that we're going to finally get to do again. Another thing that we're looking to implement from the mayor and the city council is surveys to hand out to citizens for not only just how is the city doing as a whole, and do you know everything that's the city is able to do, but also the police department by itself. So we'll have surveys to go out to anybody and everybody. They'll be online as well. So if you had an interaction with us, you can tell us if it was good, bad, what we could change, how you would want us to treat you differently. Or did you know that we do car seats events? Do you know that we do bike helmets? Do we know we do a whole bunch of different things, outreach? They may not know these things. So residents will be able to look at the survey, fill it out, and provide us with intelligence that we can use to help train our officers as they come in. So everybody's trainable. Another thing that we'd like to get done is another Touch-A-Truck. We have not been able to do that in person. Touch-A-Truck is an event where individuals can come down and see the police vehicles and everything that we have, and we can interact with them. And it goes along with the card system that we have. So individuals that have autism and dementia and other forms of disabilities that we need to know about or would help us, not that we need to know about them, but that would help us interact with that individual, secrets to help them remain calm, how to help them find them if they're lost, find out where they live. If they want to give us that information, they will provide it to us. And then we goes into our system. So if we run an individual because he hasn't returned home or we don't know where he is or she, we can put it in our system and it'll populate. This is where they like to go. This is where they live. This is what they like. So that would help facilitate finding the individual and bring them back home safely. We are in the present trying to update our dispatch center. We haven't updated our dispatch center in some time. If you take a look up there, you'll see there's, I believe there's 6 monitors, TV monitors of all different sizes. So, well, they're all about the same size, but they're not in perfect alignment. They're a little hay-shay. So we're trying to fix that, and that will be coming up later at the end. In the future, what I like to do is, obviously I said about the events, parking is an issue. Obviously with EB and Pfizer, well, not Pfizer, so to say, but EB and other citizens that come into the city, because we have 10,000 permanent residents, but then we have all the workers coming in and out of the city. Parking is an issue. What I would like to do is look forward to getting a parking enforcement officer, be it a part-time individual, that can go out and take care of parking tickets. It's about a revenue that we can bring in as a police department to the city that would go into the general fund. Parking tickets at this time are $25. We may increase that. So for 2 issues, well, one main issue is get them in compliance. Don't park where you can't park. Don't park overtime. Leave spaces open for everybody. That's one of the big things. Another thing with the House Bill 6004, we have to go through and implement a new policy on officers going through mandated drug testing to include steroids and non-prescription drugs and mental health surveys. So each year, every 3 years, each officer has to get recertified, not only for training, but as a requirement to be an officer, you have to take the drug testing and go through a mental health assessment. So we need to get that policy in place. We've been given an extension of 1 year for the officers that are presently due to get that going. That will help the officers and the department as a whole, so we know where each and every officer is. If they're doing well, if they need assistance, what do they need? Yes, sir.
About the COVID vaccine requirements, would that something on the table also?
It is not mandatory for our officers to have COVID vaccine at this time. We cannot mandate them to have that. It's strictly their choice.
Oh, I know that much,
Oh,
but is that something you're looking to
Yes.
mandate?
No, I can't mandate that by state rules.
By state or by,
by,
When this first came out, we talked about, I got department heads in the room, we talked about whether or not I was going to mandate that municipal employees all have vaccines. And we went back and forth, and the conclusion that I came to was I could still reach herd immunity and not require everybody to have vaccines. There are some employees that don't want to have vaccines for whatever reason, and I'm not going to get into the different reasons and argue back and forth about that. It is not mandatory at this point. So therefore, we have not made it mandatory. With the new variant coming out, if I need to, I will evaluate whether or not I will mandate vaccines for everybody, or right now, if you're not vaccinated, then you're supposed to wear a mask. And we do have people that wear their mask.
I understand that part, but then, again, we hope we're not, as a lot of people across the country, too little too late, to where they get the virus and they can't get the vaccine.
I understand.
So I'm thinking being proactive, and I've already sent, I've emailed prior to this possibility of having a mask mandate for government employees here for the city to protect all concerned, those who are unvaccinated that we don't know about that may enter this building and be in contact with somebody else who works here that is not vaccinated, and you leave that possibility of contamination as well, as
Right.
infection.
I understand
So-
your concern.
we have to take their word for it, correct?
We are currently following DPH, CDC, and the governor's executive orders, and Ledge Light. Who has hands?
I was gonna say, if it's off of the vaccine, go ahead, because mine is not.
Mine is not even.
Okay, then go ahead. Counselor Piazza.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask, when you're talking about speeding, so forgive my lack of knowledge in some way. I don't have anything against scooters at all, but as a school bus driver, that's been a big issue for us as far as going through our reds, going around the back, so forth and so on. And I'm not saying everybody does it. There's some that are respectful. So I just wanted to know, is there training sessions? I mean, how does it go when somebody actually purchases a scooter, which I don't have, but, is there some kind of education for them when they buy a scooter, like what laws are supposed to be doing or anything? Where's that pyramid actually, I get the scooter, where's that education provided? And do we have one set up for, maybe if we have, let's say, we have issues with scooters, we may have the police department contact it, and then where does it go from there, basically?
Unless I'm wrong, you need a driver's license to have a scooter. You cannot operate a scooter unless you have a driver's license. You have to be 16 and have a driver's license. So all your rules and laws will be by the DMV when you get your license. You have to go by every street law that you would go if you were in a car or a motorcycle. Anything over 50 cc's, you need it registered.
Motorcycle.
Scooters, right. Scooters, if you're 49 cc's and below, you don't need them registered, but you still have to have a license. You have to be 16. 50 cc's and higher, you need a registration, motorcycle registration.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Counselor McCabe.
I just had two questions. With the FBI audit, is that something you do annually, every 3 years, or what is the cadence of
I
that?
believe it's every 5? 3? All right,
Three,
every 3
okay.
years.
And you talked about having a survey. What's gonna be your distribution method? How are you gonna get that survey out to the residents?
At this point, we're building it right now. I have a sample of it that I gave out to the PAC meeting for recommendations. I would be more than happy to provide everybody here a sample with it. But I believe we're looking at the City Day.
We are looking to have it at the table at City Day
Okay.
and have it so people can fill it out there. We're eventually going to put it online so that it can be electronic. We're looking to get as much information as we possibly can out there. I don't think we talked about doing a survey monkey, but we could always do that too, but then the question is, how do you get it out? Who's responding to it, and,
Right.
you know, the accuracy of the results that you get, those kind of things.
Good.
Anything else? Okay, go ahead, I'm sorry, Counselor Norris.
Oh, are you not done?
I have a few other things that,
Please, go right
no. Some of the things that we're still doing, the cadet program, if everybody's not familiar with that, Captain Leto is running with Corporal Dela Cruz, and Officer Harris is running a cadet program for young individuals that wish to learn about law enforcement. They also do the Civilian Police Academy, which I hopefully will be getting going again. That was a good event. Another thing that we're participating in is the Children First Groton and Neighbors for Neighbors COVID grant has given us gift cards for families that may have financial needs that we run into, so we can give them gift cards for $50 each. I know we've given out several of those for individuals that may need some kind of assistance. And we also have care package for individuals that may be in need of housing, blankets, socks, soap, cleaning materials and stuff like that that we give out. They're all in our cruisers. And we actually have a Southeastern Mental Health Authority comes out with us every, I believe, once a week or once every 2 weeks to drive around and visit individuals that we have run into that may need some kind of assistance, or we feel that would benefit from speaking with somebody. Maybe they do not know what access they have to health care or mental health care. So they come out with us as well. That's it.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Counselor Norris?
Yeah, it's my turn. Love the idea of your community block parties, thank you. Talking about parking,
Yes,
you
sir.
said that we have a parking issue. Is it citywide, or is it pretty much just down by Thames and some of those archery streets down there by EB?
Pretty much the main issues that we deal with are down in front of Thames Street, Eastern Point Road area. And then they seem to branch out to the side streets. So people will be parking on White Street or Cutler Ave or Division, and then they will walk to where they need to go, say, be it EB, General Dynamics, or somewhere in there.
The reason why I ask is, are they parking there because there's nowhere else to park? Or are they
Yes.
just,
Well,
I'm sorry.
yes and no.
Yeah,
Well,
go ahead. Yes.
here's why I say yes and no. So they have if you go down Rainville Road, there's the L lot. So if you get there early enough at a reasonable hour, you can get some parking at the L lot, but that fills up fairly quickly. And then there's the M lot, which is at the bottom of Rainville, and you take a left on Pequannock, and it's just before you get to Sneakers. And that lot is not very well utilized.
Right.
Now, part of that is because it's a fairly long walk to Electric Boat. Now, part of the issue is people were walking up Rainville, and there's no sidewalk there. And I'm working with the state to try to get them to put a sidewalk, but the state doesn't want to put a sidewalk in.
Right.
So I'm debating on whether or not I'm going to ask the town and you guys to put a sidewalk in and then get permission from the state to do it. And so that it's safer. But what people are doing now is they're walking straight up Quantic because you can get on a sidewalk on the right-hand side as you're walking up. But that is one of the challenges, is where do you park closely? Because if you look at some of the areas there, Triton, Nicholas, Chapman, those are resident or residential parking, so you can't park there. Now, what happens is when people leave, they end up zipping through there, so that's part of my speed issue that we're going to address. But there's a parking management study, and therefore a parking management plan that Kimley Horn is the contractor that's actually looking at it as part of a JLA study, Joint Land Use Study, in affiliation with the Southeastern Connecticut Council of Governments, and working with Electric Boat and with us and others to try to determine where to park. Now, part of the solution is part of the solution needs to be a raised platform, meaning a parking garage. The one that we have down there is not in great shape, and it's not big enough. So you need another parking garage. Yet another aspect of this, and a lot of the younger employees, but not just younger employees, people don't want to park somewhere and then commute, be bussed in. They don't want that. They want their autonomy where I can leave when I want to leave, those kind of things. I mean, New London had a problem parking, and one of the ways they solved their parking is they parked people over here in the M lot and then bussed them over there. Well, that doesn't help my situation, right? So now, you know, EB's trying to figure this out, but EB needs to get some skin in the game on this, and they need to be involved, because once I start ticketing, well, not I, but once we start ticketing people because they're not parking correctly, eventually they're gonna be upset, and the employees are gonna complain to their unions, the unions are gonna take it up to management, and now management's gonna have an issue.
Right.
And they need to address it. So what I'm asking them to do, let's address it now, let's work together to see what we can do to address the situation before it gets dire.
Right. Thank you. One
Yes,
more.
sir. Yes, sir.
Right. So I may be using my words here. You said that you have a case officer or a care resource officer that goes out once a month?
Yeah, mental health services.
Mental
come
health
in.
services.
Southeastern Mental Health Authority sends out an officer, an individual, a counselor,
Yep.
here, and he hooks up with one of our officers, and we go out and visit individuals that we have dealt with, that we have deemed or believed to be able to get help from them.
Right.
And he reaches out, or she reaches out and asks, hey, you know, we do this, you know, you can go here and get this, and try to get them to connect.
Right. With that, could you just, like, I don't know, in 15 seconds or less, tell me, do the officers receive some type of training with dealing with folks with some type of mental illness
Yes.
while they're out on patrol?
We have CIT training that all our officers go to, which is also at Southeastern Mental Health, or that's where it was the last time, is that right? And it's crisis intervention team training. So they put us through 3 days, or when I went through it was 3 days
Yep.
of training. It goes through how individuals are thinking, things that are interfering with their thinking. Some people hear things that aren't being said, so they have us put headphones on
Yep.
and have this stuff talking to us while we're trying to do situations.
Yep.
And it's 3 days of training on how to handle them, try to calm them down, and how to deal with them.
Good. I just looked at my notes, I saw one more, sorry.
Yes, sir.
Dispatch.
Dispatch.
So if someone calls, they live in the city and they call 911,
Yes, sir.
does it go to a central location
Yes,
and
sir.
then gets
Correct.
tunneled back to the city?
Yes.
Okay,
Groton Town has the main dispatch center
Okay.
for 911.
got it.
We have our own dispatch, which is manned 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So when somebody comes into our lobby, there's somebody there to talk to them.
Right.
When they call us, there's somebody there. It's not an automated, you know, if you need this, call the dial, push
Right.
9673, no. It's, you talk to somebody.
Right.
And then when the 911 line comes in, they say, oh, it's in the city, and it patches it straight to ours, which is a 911 line, which is also taped and recorded. And we can send officers there.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions for the chief? Councilor Piazza?
In respect to the care officer, is that the correct name, the person that goes out once a month?
The Southeastern Mental Health Authority.
Yes, is this just for adults, or is it also for those under the age of 18?
Right now, we just doing adults that I've had,
Okay,
I
thank you.
know of.
Well, we
I'm
do have
sure
an
they'll go to,
affiliation,
I'm sure they'll go to everybody.
but we do have an affiliation with
Yes. Groton Human Services.
Human Services, March Fundulis and her group, and we can get whatever assistance we need, and we do that. We do, it's referred to as wellness checks, wellness visits, to ensure that people are okay.
Mhm.
Because there's sometimes we have some frequent flyers and people that need some assistance, and we check in on them, make sure everything's okay. Anything else on this? Okay, thank you, Chief.
Thank
So
you.
let's go to 758, which is the
Thank
locker rooms. No, we're gonna keep you here.
Let me get my file.
Oh, okay. All right, this is the locker rooms. Remember, I don't know, some of you may not have been on the council when this was approved for bond money, so we approved this. So now Chief's back with quotes and some details. So Chief, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you, sir. For those that do not know that weren't on the council earlier, I did a complete PowerPoint presentation for our lockers, both the men and women's and the sergeant's locker rooms. The issue with the locker rooms in the men's, they were 25 years old, 25 years plus old, and as anybody may imagine, that the metal and everything and the latches, they tend to deteriorate and malfunction, so probably half of them do not work, they do not shut correctly, so we were looking to get new lockers for several reasons. One, they don't work, and they're too small. We're not able to hang all our items in there, to include our bulletproof vests and our uniforms. The female locker room was even worse, because it was almost as old as the building, I believe, and you couldn't hang anything in there. It would not hold a coat hanger. They were the old gymnasium lock. They're, for lack of a better word, the gymnasium lockers that you only had little hooks on, so you couldn't hang a uniform in there. So the female officers, being as they are, settled the issue and brought in their own lockers from outside. So they were able to scrounge some larger lockers, put them in the room with them, which is not a good work environment for them. So we were looking to just get rid of all the old ones, remodel the whole room, and put new ones in. So we were able to go through the Tiffin company. We had some budget, we had some refunded money, not refunded, repurposed bond money. And we have all the lockers that would be installed. We would remove the old ones and installed for $58,809. And that would be able to start within the next couple of weeks to a month, if we're able to do that.
Any questions on that? Counselor Norris?
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I've heard about these locker rooms.
I have pictures.
Good question, though, and it's probably a silly question. Are we going to paint the facility before we just drag in the lockers?
Yes, these are gonna be brand-new lockers, so I would repurpose the whole floor and paint the walls. The issue that we're going to have, not an issue, what we'd have to go around is where we are going to put the lockers themselves right now and have them secured. So we can move them up to the auditorium, not the auditorium, but our conference room up here, the police conference room, which we could lock, and keep them up there while we refurbished everything, and then put the lockers in. And then we have also a cage downstairs, which that doesn't provide any privacy for individuals changing. But we are looking into that as well. So I would want a whole new clean thing, and no, I already have rules, no stickers on the lockers. These are new.
Any other questions on this item? May I need a motion to move this to the mayor and council meeting of August 2nd, 2021?
I gladly make that motion.
Second.
Okay, motion is second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Okay, I need a motion to suspend the rules to add accept nuclear safety emergency program budget money.
So moved.
Second.
Okay? Okay, you guys got this. Okay, good. So we literally got this afternoon, and that's why we brought it in. This is money, this is nuclear money, nuclear safety money, and the total amount is $24,795. Part of it is for equipment and part of it is for exercises and training. So Chief, if you could do a real quick
Yes, sir.
overview of that.
Again, what this is the 2022 Nuclear Safety Emergency Program budget, which we have requested upgrades to our dispatch center. This is how we are going to upgrade our dispatch center. So we are going to upgrade with new monitors, $23,295 worth of upgrades to our system. That would include, like I said, monitors, reorganization of the tables in the unit itself so it's more functioning. We do have a Millstone computer up there that we need to be able to see and monitor in case we are able to sound the alarms from our dispatch center. Right now, as the dispatcher looks forward, the alarms in the system is way over here in the back left corner. So we would like to rearrange that and make it more functional and easier for the dispatchers, any officer up there, to actually do the job and be able to respond to an emergency if needed.
Hold on.
You want,
No, hold on. We did not vote to suspend the rules. So we need to vote to suspend, didn't we not say? We did, right? Do you have the vote?
Motion and a second.
Motion second, and we voted, right? Yes. Okay, that's what I thought. Okay. All right, we're good. So any other questions on this motion that's on the floor, or this item? Deputy Mayor Depot.
I just want to comment, we're always looking for ways to fund the things. This is an emergency, a program for emergency management, but we also use these things on a regular basis, so we're kind of multi-purpose, finding ways to fund without raising taxes on the residents. And I know that we try, every department really tries to do that, and I just want to say we appreciate your efforts, because you have to submit for this. It's not doesn't just magically come. You have to put it together and put in a request. So thank you for doing that.
thank you. You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. Did I ask for a motion to move it to? Okay, so I need a motion to move this to the mayor and council meeting of August 2nd, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
We'll see you. We'll see you in a few
Thank you,
minutes.
Chief.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we're going to 550, which is the capital improvement project bonds, a SHIP grant. You know what, I'm gonna bring Leslie Crean up. She is our planner. And she was not the planner that submitted this, that got this started, but she is the planner that this landed on, for lack of a better term. But I will speak to most of this. So last week, the Connecticut Port Authority finally authorized, well, actually, Bond Council last year authorized the funding. Last week, the Connecticut Port Authority sent us the two agreements to get signed. One is for $75,000, and that is for the $75,000 grant is for the review and the planning for the Thamesview Park, the lower part of that, on how to make that ADA accessible to the docks. And there's no match associated with that. The other one is $649,333 that comes with the rest of it is a match to take it up to $815,000. And that match will be funded by the city, and that will come out of the undesignated capital, which we have about $1.1 million in there. So we have plenty of money in there in order to do that. Okay, the history of this goes back, and then what we're looking at, so the things that we provided you with the opinion of probable cost. We gave you the Connecticut Port Authority, the grants, the authorization of the grants. If you go back to June 20th, 2020, we had a committee of the whole where we talked about this. Said Mayor Hedrick said he contacted Port Authority to see where the grant application stands. This is for information purposes. The city has been approved for $815,416 with a city match of $166,083.20 for the new dock and $75,000 with no matching funds required for the municipal dock study to make things E-Park ADA accessible. And then there's the application that we submitted, which shows pictures and some renderings of what we're hoping this will look like. So what I'm asking for, what we're gonna be asking for is there's gonna be a couple resolutions. There's gonna be a resolution to accept the grant of $75,000. There's gonna be a resolution to accept the grant of $649,333. And there'll be a resolution to authorize the 166,000, thank you, plus out of undesignated capital. So those would be the resolutions that would come to you next week. So are there any questions or comments on this project or on this set of resolutions? Councilor Norris.
Are these reimbursement grants or funding up front?
Well, that's a very good question. Normally, that question wouldn't be applicable, but it is in this particular case. So, for those of you that are not aware, typically what happens is we would get the whole $649,000 $333 up front. But in this particular case, they are reimbursement grants. So what that means is the money is there, it's authorized, and we will invoice them monthly or as the bills come in and until the money is utilized. Deputy Mayor Depot,
Who is gonna be responsible for that invoicing, the finance department?
Finance Department, Director Uaz. I excused him tonight because he had something he needed to do. But every time I do something like this and he's not here, I'm like, okay, where are we gonna go? I'm out here all alone. Usually I'm pretty good. Did anybody over here have a question? Okay, so Councilor Norris, go ahead.
This is going off the table.
Sure.
Awesome idea, great thing to happen in the city and get those up and running again. But as I said, running off the cliff here is, have we given any thought to operations, or is we too early in that game?
Well, no, because before I went and asked for the grant, I said, how are we gonna do it? How are we gonna operate it? Because municipalities a lot of times just jump right in, and if they get a grant, say, oh, it's free money. And then they don't think about downside maintenance, they don't think about how you're gonna operate it. So I don't have all the questions, all the answers to the questions that you're gonna wanna answer, but right now, what I'm looking at is we are looking at doing a private-public partnership with someone to operate and maintain the dock. And the reason I'm looking at doing that, I do not have that expertise on board. And to hire that expertise for a seasonal operation doesn't make sense to me for full-time, full benefits, those kind of things. Because taxpayers be paying forever for that, right? So, you know, we don't have that expertise. It takes a certain skill set. So there's, you know, because you have the docks, you have the bumpers, you have everything associated with that. We're gonna have 8 26-foot boat slips with a location to launch kayaks off of. That's gonna be handicap accessible. So the things that we still have not determined is it gonna be seasonal or is it gonna be year-round? Well, we don't have the answer, so I'm not gonna get into my preferences. So is it gonna be seasonal or is it gonna be year-round? Are we gonna charge for the slips or are we not gonna charge for the slips? If we do, how do you charge and what's it based on? Is there gonna be a turnaround time? Is it short-term, long-term? Are you gonna allow overnight? You know, there's a lot of questions There's actually many more questions than we have answers for at this time, but this is when we go after, not go after, but when we talk to people that we're gonna interview for operating it, these are all the questions we're gonna ask. Because we have marinas right around here, right? So they know what they're doing, why would we do it any differently? And those kind of things. We are also, my intent is for this to be accessible so that people can fish off the end as well, right? Because you got water there, why not fish? People love to go fishing, you see them all the time. See them down at Griswold Point, see them down on the things at the water taxi landing. People fishing there, it gives us another place to fish. So that's good news. Councilor McCabe.
Would we consider having, cameras installed down there?
Yeah, we're gonna need to do that. One of the things that we're gonna need to do is electrify that. Now, I don't think, now, let me be clear where I'm going. We're not setting up a marina. So I'm not looking to run potable there, I'm not looking to run, shore power, any of that stuff. I'm looking to run whatever power we would need. If we needed to have harbor lights is the wrong word. If we needed, dock lights for safety and access, and to put cameras there. So that is one of the things we'd be looking at. Councilor Piazza.
Thank you. I know at the presentation that Ms. Crean and Ms. Patrick had that I was at, great presentation, I loved it. I just wanted to say that I know there was a resident there, a city resident, that was talking about, they were concerned about the safety about the kayaking and where they would actually launch off. And I wanted to know, if this might be premature in asking, but if that within these monies is being looked at and you know.
I missed that part I wasn't there for that part of the presentation. Where we're gonna launch, right now, the intent, one, if you go into the drawing, there's a couple designs. One was to launch it inside and paddle around. The other was to launch it on the end, to make it, on the end. So when we get the final drawings and they come to you, then we'll be able to better answer your question then. I do not have a specific answer now.
Okay.
But my intent, one of the things we've been advertising all along is to make this an ADA accessible kayak boat launch. And that's what we're gonna do. So we are gonna make that happen. I'm not sure where the specific location is, but it will be safe there when we do it.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Councilor Sheffield, do you have anything? I'm sorry. Anybody else? Okay. In that case, I would like to get a motion to move this to the mayor and council meeting of August 2nd this year.
So moved. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Leslie, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Leslie.
Okay, 6 is the American Rescue Plan. Well, actually, before we go to 6, I want to go to 1. I'd like to get your permission to suspend the rules. Well, what's that? Oh, no, I'm sorry, 6 was for me. Sorry, my apologies. Let me start over. We're going to do number 1, which is appointments, but to do that, I need a motion to suspend the rules to add Colton Jenkins as a planning and zoning alternate.
So moved. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Okay, so I think this was added to your spaces. We just got this authorization, I think today or yesterday. Nope, can't be yesterday because today's Monday. So today, Colton Jenkins' application for planning and zoning. He would be an alternate. This is his first alternate position. He would be filling a position that expires in June of 2022. So I think some of you may know Colton already, but he's interested in helping with the planning and zoning, and we could use, you guys know that we need volunteers in order to fill boards and commissions, and getting good volunteers is a really big deal. Deputy Mayor Depot.
I have a question I don't think I've ever asked before. Is there a limit to the number of alternates we have on a board and commission?
Yeah, there's a, if you look on the thing, it says what the permanent members are and then what the alternates are.
I was
mean, we
just,
don't build, like, right now in planning and zoning, suddenly we have 3 openings.
the only reason I asked that, I was just gonna say, you know, Colton had reached out to, I think, more than one person and other people in the building, I think, about getting involved, and I personally encouraged him, pick something that you're interested in and find the board or commission that closely aligns with that and apply. And I think, you know, he's gonna be an alternate. To me, that's a pretty low-pressure way of entering and getting involved, so I just wanna encourage people, you know, if there's a department that you're interested in, contact that department and say, is there a board or commission that I can jump on or attend to kind of get involved? I'm really glad he's a respected businessman in the city, and he does know, he's well-known here, and I'm excited to get him involved more, so.
Absolutely. Okay, any other conversation, any other discussion, sorry. Okay, hearing none, I need a motion to move this to the mayor and council meeting of August 2nd.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and multiple seconds. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Okay, let me make sure I've gotten everything else done. Should be the last thing we have before we go into executive session is 793, American Rescue Plan Act. This is informing. So when you go to 793, get back there. So first of all, I think Ron informed you last time we were together rather, that we had received the American Rescue, the ARPA funds, right, to the tune of, this year's funds for the tune of $1.3 million. And we'll get another amount of 1.3. And there's basically a chart in the back that says how much we're gonna receive. There's 2 parts of this. I want to go to the second part first, which is from the Council of Governments. Jim Butler, the executive director, reached out to the executive board, and then we went to the board as a whole. And what he's asking for is a stipend. Basically, I think it's it's the current adopted rate of 0.55 cent per capita. So, whoops, nope, that's not true. It's 1% of the county allocation, that's what it is. So, basically what he's looking for is for the different members of start over. He's asking for 1% of our county allocation over 4 years, you know, an amount every year for 4 years, in addition to our dues, to help fund a person that will be they're gonna call it the navigator, that will help the council of governments and the municipalities help guide their way through this. Because there's a lot of questions about what's acceptable, what's not acceptable. I've talked to Ron about this, and he doesn't really have an opinion one way or another. Talked to John Burt. What the town is looking is there. If you look at the town's numbers, the town is looking to get $8 million total. So they're thinking, because of that amount of money, they're thinking about hiring their own navigator and not going this route. But we could go either way. I wasn't necessarily thinking about hiring another individual. And we don't know how complicated it is. I mean, in the end, what you're talking is the annual allocation would be what is it, $4,000, a little over $4,000 a year for the 4 years. So we're gonna get the money in 2 years, two increments, and then we have a total of 4 years to spend the money. But one of the concerns that Ron and I have is, what are we allowed to spend the money on? What are the caveats? I mean, if you follow the newspaper, Norwich has already stepped out there and said, here's what we're gonna do. And there are people that are doing that. There are other people that are hanging back trying to get more information. Every week, there's more information that comes out. Sometimes it's conflicting with the additional information. Even in the Council of Governments, even in the Council of Governments, somebody will come out and say, well, we're gonna spend the money on this. And somebody say, well, I don't think that applies. So the concern that I have is I'm not gonna spend the money until I'm 100% sure that the government's gonna approve it, and not come back and say, okay, we don't approve that money, so it comes out of comes out of your budget, right? I wanna make sure that we're getting the money. I don't wanna waste the money, I don't wanna lose the money, but I wanna make sure that we do it correctly. And we've given a couple high-level overviews. We're gonna continue to go with high-level overviews before I come to you with a list of projects and recommendations for funding. So that's the one thing on the Council of Governments on, what am I doing with this? Okay, this is informing, so I'm not asking for our motion on it. And then the second part of this, which is 793A, the Cultural Coalition has reached out to the municipalities and has basically asked for 1% of our funds, which would be $13,000 out of each allocation, to fund the Cultural Coalition, which would be 4 projects in the city of Groton. So those are the 2 requests that we've had so far. So with that, I'll open the floor for discussion. Deputy Mayor Depot.
For the Council of Governments, administrative thing,
Yep.
is it an option? I'm guessing the answer is no, but would it be an option to join it, and then if it doesn't work out for a year, say we're not seeing any benefit from it, can we back out of that?
I don't know. I can ask him if we can fund it a year at a time.
Because
I-
to me,
I-
that would make more sense, because really, if it's something that our own finance department, if, for example, Director Uhas finds that he could do that same work, it wouldn't be a huge loss to do it for a year. And it might even be kind of a helpful community thing for other
Yeah.
municipalities and us in that first year. But if after the first year, we feel like we can take on that task, and Director Uhas thinks he can take on that task, it would seem like a waste to spend that money.
Okay. All right, I'll ask that question. I have not asked that question. Councilor Norris.
Very good question. I think the hiccup in that comes in 2 forms. One, if not enough municipalities jump on board in this, then they don't have the funding to do what they want to do.
Yeah.
And then if potentially we enter an agreement where we say, if we don't think it's working for us, we back out, then it kind of, the whole thing falls apart if others start to feel the same way. I don't know enough about what exactly that they would do for this, or is there a better partnership we could have with the town, with if they're really looking to hire a person that we could work with? So there's just a lot of questions with this.
Well, there are questions there, and I am on the town's Sierra Patrick and I are on the town's long-term recovery committee. And so one of the things that John is getting some information from Paige and others is what kinds of things are the town looking at? And then I'm looking at, do we want to, for example, social services? Do I want to do I want to come to you and offer money to the social services for the residents that are here in the city? Or is that something that we just let the town go with? I have different feelings on it on different days, but I think it's probably best if we can support that. Also looking at drug addiction and those kind of things. And the other thing that we're looking at is is, I have Sierra evaluating whether or not we can do some, grants for people who were, one, businesses, but two, also for residents who were negatively impacted by COVID. Because this is what this money's for. There's also infrastructure money in there, but if you look at our total grant is a little over $2.6 million. If you start looking at infrastructure, for example, sewer or water or anything like that, you can spend that money very quickly. Whereas, and then none of the people, you don't get any of the people impact. The other thing that I will caution us on, and I'm cautioning the long-term recovery committee, is to not create a program that people depend on and then you need to continue to fund it. That's not the purpose of this rescue funds. It's meant as a shot in the arm, and then you gotta move on. So one of the things we have to be careful of is not creating a program that then we need to continue to support. Now, if we have a program already and all we're doing is providing additional funds to that program, that's one thing. But to create a program that now we're starting up and it's good for 4 years, and then there's an expectation of people needing that money, now the problem is now you gotta find it, you don't have it from the feds anymore. In addition to this, you know, one of the things they talk about is infrastructure and broadband. I'm going to reach out to my representatives and to the state because I heard that the state is interested in getting 5G. I heard that there are companies that are interested in expanding 5G. So I'm cautious on putting money in to expand 5G that's already gonna be spent by somebody else. I wouldn't have a problem having 5G here in this area or in public areas, but I'm also going to be careful the money would want to spend on 5G if it's already going to come from somewhere else that has deeper pockets or it's already allocated for, right? Because there's probably a better use of our funds for our residents here in the city. I'm sure there's questions or comments. I'm ready, but I need to. Again, this is informing. This is not, I'm not going to be coming to you on August 2nd with a motion. Anything else? Okay? Make sure I have everything covered. That's that. Everything's done. Megan, I got everything, right? Okay, now, what motion was that that there was the question on?
The motion to amend the nuclear safety emergency program budget, I believe.
Okay, then what I'm gonna do is, that wasn't to suspend the rules, that was actually, was that to suspend the rules?
That was to suspend the rules.
Okay. Now, we've already voted on it, but we want to make sure we capture the vote to suspend the rules just in case we missed it.
Yes, there was a
Okay.
motion, there was a second, but it was in question whether we voted on it.
All right, so there was a motion and a second to suspend the rules to accept the Nuclear Safety Emergency Program budget funds on the agenda. So there's a first and a second, there was a question as to whether or not we voted on it. I thought we did, but there's a question on it. What I'd like to do is to administratively clear it up, parliamentary wise, is to get a vote on it. Does everybody understand what we're voting on? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Okay, now we're good. So we're 100%? Okay, all right. So we are done with the regular portion. We're gonna go into executive session. We actually have 2 executive sessions. So we're gonna enter, correction, need a motion to enter into executive session pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes 1-206A, 1, to discuss personnel in the fire department to include Chief Tompkins, Linda, and Chris. 2, to discuss personnel police department to include Chief Jenkins, Corporal Holliday, and Captain Lita.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? We are in executive session, so let's